What is up, guys? Jacobi here. Hope you're having a great day. It is surprisingly chilly here for me. Middle of July, and it is 52 degrees. Which actually kind of gets into what I wanted to talk about. Mostly prompted by the temperature, but let me set the scene. So, you step outside, right? You feel the sun on your face, very warm, or maybe it's raining like cats and dogs. And you think to yourself, wow, this weather's crazy. Or like, it's so cold. Where's that global warming everyone's talking about, right? That's kind of where the confusion around this comes in. And I know this has been done to death, but I want to make sure I'm trying to do my part or whatever. People will look at, like, one hot day or a big blizzard and think, like, that they understand a complex subject like climate. And I'm not saying that I understand it, right? But I recognize it's like taking a book, right, and reading one word off of one page and just assuming you know what the entire book is about now. Well, this word said hot. So this book is all about things that are hot. Doesn't make any sense, right? Like, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. There's a whole bunch of different words on that page. There's more than one page. Obviously, they could be talking about things that are hot, but it could just as likely be talking about whatever. It doesn't matter. Anything else. But today I wanted to break down the differences between weather and climate. So that hopefully to everyone, it'll make more sense when the experts in the field talk about these things, and it may not match up with what you're immediately seeing. So, the way, not the only way, but one of the really good ways to kind of describe it is the weather is your mood and climate is like your personality. So you might have a bad day, you might be tired, you might be cranky, but if in general you're fairly energetic, fairly happy, like that's your personality. even if you have a bad day, you're still generally a happy person, right? And sometimes you're happy. It's sunny out. Sometimes you're grumpy or sad, rainy. Sometimes you're really energetic, windy. And then like other times maybe you're just tired, chill. And that's just a nice, pleasant day. Right? So like, it might be sunny where I am, or clear skies in this case. And like, meteorologists can kind of, sort of, usually predict weather a few days out, right? But beyond that, it gets extremely tough. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I had to stop for fuel real quick. But, like, okay, weather, it's what's happening right here, right now, right? I mean, it might be this week, but, like, roughly this exact time frame. It might be, clear skies here. And in Dallas, it might be raining, right? That's the weather for each location. It might rain tomorrow in Seattle. Probably going to rain tomorrow. I've actually never been, but what I'm told is it's very rainy. And, like, we can predict it, right? A few days out, usually. But it gets extremely tough beyond that. Like, that's the old story, right? I mean, even part of that Disney movie, Encanto, it rained on her wedding day, right? Or do you ever try and plan an event, like a picnic, or like, hey, we're going to go to the beach in 2 weeks, and it gets rained out? That's weather. Or, hey, you remember that snowstorm that we had last year? Like, it might be 3 days, right? But that's still weather. That's your mood. Now, climate, that's your overall personality. Like, over a long period of time. You might have a cold day, like I'm having today. But generally, we can say, hey, the summers are going to be warmer than the winters. That's the climate. It's probably going to be humid throughout the summer. That's the climate, right? The desert is probably going to be hot and dry. That's the climate of the desert. It's the long-term patterns, the average weather conditions over many, many, many years. Like, at least, but usually more than 30. And it's usually like wide areas that we're talking about for climate. So the Midwest is hot in the summer and usually pretty humid. Florida is more of a tropical climate. Alaska is more of an Arctic climate. But saying it's going to be hot doesn't mean that I can predict next year's temperature over, like, doesn't mean that I can predict next year's temperature today. So 1 year from now, it's going to be 83 degrees. It could be. It might be. It's impossible to tell right now. But I can predict with a fair degree of certainty next summer is going to be warmer than the winter. That's the climate. Like, to use another analogy, right? The weather would be how, insert your favorite sports team here, how the Cowboys, or how one specific player does in a football game. But the climate is going to be how they do for the full season. How the full team does for the full season. Or if you're not into sports, okay, I think of it like your like dresser or closet or wardrobe, whatever, right? And you have t-shirts, shorts, sweaters, snow boots, because that's kind of the range of like weather that you'll encounter throughout the year. That's your climate. But the weather is specifically what you pick out to wear today. Right? So, let's say it's raining. Okay? I'm going to put on a shirt, heavy coat, some boots. But, like, you don't look at that and go, whew, these guys have no idea what they're talking, and then throw away all your t-shirts and sandals and stuff because it was cold today. Like, that would be ludicrous, right? You don't throw out your snow boots because it didn't snow one day of the winter. Sorry, I actually wrote notes for this episode. Just scrolling through real quick. So, like with my situation today, it's 52 degrees, right? Where's that global warming? Well, that doesn't make sense, because it's one day. And just like you might be mad one day, it's not your default personality. Now, how do scientists actually look at climate? Like, how do they kind of see it? So, they're certainly not guessing. They, for what, decades and centuries now, we've kept records of like what the weather is every day. You go back and look at, well, I mean, I don't know that they'd be accessible, but there are, I guess, records of the tides and what the weather was like for I don't know what, but like lighthouses, right? Or people that are doing shipping stuff, probably all the way back to ancient Rome, further back before that. But it's temperature, but not just the like single temperature for one day. Like, they're not looking at that. They're looking at, okay, what's the average temperature for the month or the week or the season, right? For every month, let's say, just because that's a nice round number. They're going to find the average high, average low for July, for every year, for hundreds of years. And then you go boop, 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 put that on a graph. What's it look like? They're going to look at rain and snow. Like, how much precipitation is there over those same long periods? And what if we don't have records for areas or like, I'm sure the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Incans, I'm sure they kept track of the weather, at least to some extent. But I don't have any evidence to support that. But just, they figured stuff out, it seems likely. But what we can do in areas that maybe we wouldn't have, how to say it, we don't have records, right? Or maybe we didn't like someone else's. What we can do is grab an ice core, okay? And an ice core, imagine drilling deep into a sheet of ice with like a hollow drill bit. And you can pull it up, and each little layer of the ice, kind of similar to like how the rings on a tree work, they tell scientists about the temperature for that year and the atmosphere, like what was going on. Was it very rainy or snowy, and we can pull these ice cores and they can go back thousands of years. Speaking of the rings on trees, right? If you look at it, I mean, you can look at it and go, hey, this one's bigger than that one, and this one's bigger. And if you get good at it and you can match up, like, then you can see how much rain fell, how warm it was, and it's not as high definition, I guess, as, okay, I'm going to write down the numbers every day. But it's a lot better than, I don't know. And a lot of trees, I mean, they live for a long time. Maybe we'll talk about trees on another episode. But easily, some trees can be centuries old. Another option that like scientists will have is like the ocean sediments, which are like the layers of gunk at the bottom of the ocean. And scientists can look at those, kind of similar to like an ice core. You just, and it's like little layers of a cake or like a baklava. And you go, oh, okay, this layer has blah, blah, blah. This layer has that. And you can see, okay, what's the temperature? What's being dissolved in the water and settling to the ocean floor at this point in time. Now, when scientists talk about climate change, right? They're talking about a long-term shift in these averages based on all of this data that they can collect. It doesn't mean next year on July 4th, it's going to be hotter than this year's July 4th. That's not what it means. What it means is the average temperature over decades, or the frequency of extreme weather events, or the amount of ice on the planet is changing over a long period of time. And there's a really good, I'll have to see if I can find it and link it in the description or show notes. But there's a comic that shows like just the average temperature back to how long ago was it? Let's say the Ice Age. I think it was before that, but I don't remember. But it moves up and it moves down, and I was like, yeah, that's how it goes. Oh, look at that. It's going up. Oh, okay, it's coming back down. And it feels like a lot of people want to say, like, yeah, that's normal. Temperatures go up and temperatures go down, and the planet has a normal cycle. And it's a really long graph. He has little doodles like along the side showing kind of what's happening at the time, right? But all of these movements, right, they're very gradual and like long-term changes. And then we get to the comparatively very recent past. And it's almost like a right angle. Right? Like it's supposed to be a general, nicely rolling hill sort of a shape. And it's just a spike. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to do with this information, right? If you want to listen and go, cool, I don't care, that's fine. Like that's, I think, probably the worst answer, but okay. If you want to do the opposite and go, huh, no one ever said it to me like that, and now it clicks, and I'm going to go out and buy a electric vehicle and switch over all my light bulbs. Cool. For me, I think it's something that is going to be much larger than changing one person's mind. Right? And mainly the point of it was it helps us, all of us, make sense of the world around us. Just the information. It helps us know, okay, maybe next year I don't need these snow boots anymore. But, and I almost fell into it earlier, but one of the things that I think bothers me the most about all of this is how it feels like whomever, either lobbyists or politicians or eco-green groups, whatever, they make it seem like, oh, you need to recycle that cup or else the world's going to catch on fire. And it simply isn't. Do I think everybody should pitch in and try and do a little bit to help? Yeah. Am I going to get mad at somebody for throwing a soda bottle in the trash instead of in the recycling? No. Because the amount of waste or greenhouse gases or like that whole thing, like, yeah, people create a lot of that. But you know who creates a lot more? Businesses. And some of them are doing something, but it feels like a lot don't care. So whether it's like some big business or the government itself, right? Or like a municipal power company or a factory, right? They're on, hey, make sure you recycle, while they're burning coal or burning diesel fuel. Uh-oh. I'm going to point the finger at myself now. But, like, that's the point, right? How much change is there going to be from you driving like a Toyota Corolla to you driving an all-electric Prius? I mean, there will be some change, but not much. But how much more change would there be if all the trains and all the semi-trucks got switched over to electric or hydrogen or, whatever? Solar, wind. I know those aren't like mutually exclusive. Those would still be electric, but like, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but it feels like those would be so much more impactful, but it would cost a lot of money to do. So a lot of these businesses, it feels like they're not going to do it, and they're going to go, hey, that bottle, bro, Mother Earth, come on. We're in this together. Anyway, shorter episode. Hopefully it was okay. And I hope you guys learned something. If you like it, go ahead and give it the thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, if you're new here, like what you hear, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. And if you have any questions, comments, future topic suggestions, throw it in the comments. And I'd be happy to read them. But yeah, it's one of those deals, like I said earlier, it's been done to death, but I've kind of found where, somebody can say something 100 ways and it just doesn't click. But somebody else walks up and says basically the same thing, and for some reason you just get it, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping to accomplish. But I will let you guys go. Be safe out there. Have a great rest of your day. So I did the whole outro already. I'll redo it. But I had some additional thoughts. Climate change is real. Right? It's provable. It's affecting us. But more so than just us, it's affecting others, like other creatures on the planet. It's affecting plants, etc. And there's a whole, another episode worth of stuff to go into regarding the problems just with the temperature changing for us directly, right? Because what happens when a virus or a bacteria or a fungus gets in your body? You get a fever and that kills it. What happens when that virus or bacteria or fungus gets accustomed to living at warmer and warmer and warmer temperatures? Because their evolution happens a lot faster than ours. So we're not going to be able to fight off an infection if they're adapting to warmer temperatures as quickly as they are. And that's already been shown. But more like broad strokes, because that's a whole subject I'd like to get into separately. But broad strokes, it's affecting bees, it's affecting, thank you, it's affecting corals, it's affecting lightning bugs, fireflies. And I mean, I haven't seen coral in the wild. I've seen plenty of coral from working at the fish stores, but I haven't gone to a reef and seen coral. I've seen them in zoos. I think that'd be amazing. And I remember, like, growing up, you know, going out in the backyard in the summer and catching fireflies. And now you go out there, you look around, there's not as many, right? At least in my area. I assume that's similar everywhere. And like, it was magical, right? Your whole yard is just twinkling. And you just run around and you put some in a jar, and it was probably terrible for them, but you know, it was amazing. And I want my kids to experience that. I want my grandkids to experience that. But it doesn't seem like that's the way we're headed. But that's why I wanted to come back to point out, just, guys, think of the fireflies. Alright. If you like this, I would really appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. If you're new here and you like what you're hearing, I mean, hopefully you don't like hearing that, but in general, if you like how I'm doing things, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you get notified for new episodes. And if you have any topic suggestions or questions, or just want to say anything, leave a comment, and I mean, I'll definitely read it. But until next time, guys, be safe, and thanks for your time.